Good evening and welcome to the November 1st, 2021 Northern London School District Committee meeting. I call this meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence led by Director Murray.
Of the United States of America.
And welcome to the November 1st, 2021 Northern London School District. Mrs. Martin, may I have a roll call, please? Yes. Gray. Bergman.
Here.
Fowler.
Here.
Marlowe.
Here.
Murray. Here. Klein.
Here.
McCullough. Here. Nom.
Here.
Bucks. Here. Gray absent. All other members are present. Thank you. Next is item 2, that is the adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Mrs. Martin, can you please make the record note that Director Gray arrived? Okay. Welcome. All right, now we'll move to item 2. That is the adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? May I have a second? Is there any discussion? This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded in the affirmative unless you say nay or I abstain. The motion has passed. Next is item 3, that is our public comment session. Those wishing to make public comment were asked to submit that request by 4 o'clock this evening via email or online form. Mrs. Martin, am I correct in that there are no requests for public comment this evening? That is correct. Thank you. And we will move along. The minutes shall note that public notice was given for the meeting in accordance with Act 84 of 1986. Notices and advisements of these meetings will carry the intent that limited business may be conducted on any scheduled meeting. That brings us to item 5. That is items for discussion. These are items for board action this evening. Dr. Messinger.
5.1 is our bid advertisement that is ready. We have all the details set to go for phase 2 of the athletic improvements. No more groundwater in the concession stand at the Clyde. And that'll go out to bid. I think December 1st is the bid due date. Is that right, Brad? And then we'll have those figures for you. Do you want to do them all together?
I think we can do along.
5.2, we have 3 folks for employment with Mr. Hurling that will round out our administrative team. We are fully staffed in that position. 2 teachers for you.
Are there any questions on those items?
Yes, when do we anticipate construction to start on the athletic building?
They'll start procurement by January. They'll have to wait on some things until know we go.
Any other questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve items 5.1 and 5.2 as presented? May I have a second? Is there any discussion?
Director, when you want to just mention that you're going to abstain from right now.
Yes, I'm abstaining from number 2 because that is my wife, so I won't be taking part in, I guess, any of these.
Is there any other discussion? This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded in the affirmative unless you say nay or I abstain. The motion has passed. Moving on to item 6, these items for discussion proposed for the consent calendar next week.
Yeah, item 6 is our normal approval of minutes, the student and kids activity account, and our cash disbursements.
Any questions there? All right, then we move to budget and finance.
Yeah, we have 2 items there for you. There's a settlement agreement, which Kelly, since we're here tonight and rolling along, maybe we stay after and we're going to let Brad talk about curriculum, maybe you want to go over that as well. And then also, Leah, would you like to talk a little bit about the cafeteria staff?
This is to get our cafeteria starting wage up above the $10 an hour. You can tell them when we get classified a while ago, because now the cafeteria staff, they are outsourced. However, our cafeteria has not been, that's right. Sorry. Will this carry up there? Or do I have to do it awkwardly? Now, I'm so loud, I forget that we get for the YouTube. So as you can all recall, we did an increase for our classified staff a little bit ago, and we did not do it for the cafeteria staff as they are outsourced by Max Culinary. So they are still hiring or attempting to hire individuals at $10 an hour. As you all know, in this current climate, it is just not being very effective, and it's been a while since our cafeterias have been fully staffed. So what I'm doing is proposing that we bring the hiring wage rate up to $12 an hour, and also giving a slight bump to all the other employees detailed in that spreadsheet, so that we can have longevity and also hire and fully staff our cafeterias to serve our students' needs.
While we have you, would you like to just explain the booklet you handed out?
Sure. Do you want me to go through everything that I have on the agenda and just? The only other one was the budget calendar. Do you want me to wait till the end to do that?
No, go ahead.
Sorry. So the the booklet that I gave out, thanks, Brad. That was available for you to look at last week. This is just your copy. So what we did was we had a real estate agent come out that knows the local market, review the house. This is the house that sits between Jonestown Elementary School and the Jonestown Park near our parking spaces over there. And what she did was she gave us a valuation for it if we were to sell it now. And then she also gave a recommendation that when we go to sell the elementary schools, what if we would hold on to this building? And her final recommendation was that we should hold on to this building because she thinks it will increase in value and will possibly be sold as a premium to whoever would buy the Jonestown Elementary School if they wanted additional parking. This has over half of an acre of land with it. It's right there. Jonestown does not have a lot of parking, as we all know. So this could come in very desirable to whoever is buying the Jonestown Elementary building. So her recommendation was for us to hold on to it. And in the meantime, we can rent it out. She recommended a management company. Can't remember the name of it right now, but I am going to reach out to them and work with them to see what kind of repairs and updates we might need to do it to be able to rent it out, and then work to get it rented out to someone so we can have some income off of it for the next year until we're waiting to sell it. And then the final thing I have on is the budget calendar. That is under the budget calendar is posted under information for you. And I just wanted to highlight a few things on that as we're starting. Before we know it, it'll be budget time. It's going to be here. And we are doing our budget different this year. We are actually going to do it in our new software, which is called FIS. And all the secretaries and building principals and department heads, like our athletic director, have gone through training with Kayla on it. And so far, we've received a lot of positive feedback that they think this is going to simplify it. It's nice to have it done in the system. It'll make it a lot easier for me to wrap it up, because right now I'm downloading data out of the spreadsheet, sending it out to everybody. They're working it, manipulating it. Somehow it never comes back exactly the same coded. That makes it an easy upload for me. So this should bypass all that frustration for both ends and have it done right into the system that we can start analyzing it, and Darren and I could look at it and make decisions at an earlier date. So I just wanted to pass that information along to you, as well as The state came out with the adjusted index for us, and our adjusted index for Northern Lebanon School District is a 4.3% rate for our tax increase for the 22 to 23 school year. And Gary and I have discussed this, and we think that in December we should go ahead and do an accelerated budget opt-out resolution, which is basically saying that we will not be raising the taxes above the 4.3% for the 22 to 23 school year. And then we will pass that. So we will not be doing a preliminary budget then in January if you do the opt-out clause. So I wanted to let you all know ahead of time that we'll be presenting to you that opt-out clause, which is a resolution stating that we won't go above the 4.3% tax increase for the 22 to 23 school year. And our current millage is a 14.6623. Just wanted to remind you all of that. And a 4.3% would be taking us up to the 15.29 26 at that time. So the state, that is one of the higher adjusted index rates since I've been here anyway. So that's why Gary and I talked. I thought it would be good to do the accelerated opt-out resolution.
And keep in mind, both those two items, well, I don't work. Those are only informational items tonight. We would discuss staying within the index in December and vote on it then. And then the House, we'll put that recommendation on the meeting agenda for next week then, to move forward with rental unless there's any objections or discussion for next week. And you can reach out obviously all week long if there's anything.
You hear when you vote on it? Maybe a curiosity question. That higher rate for that to higher costs going up? Is there expecting next year?
If you remember, I don't have it right off the top of my head, but there's so many things that play into it, but it's the inflation index, and that was higher this year. So then coupled in with a bunch of things that are owned, like all the different school districts have their own different adjusted index rate. And the rate, the adjusted index rate, the index rate was higher for the state of Pennsylvania this year because of the growing cost. And then ours is adjusted even higher than that because of our own factors contributing to that. But I can tell you that in Lebanon County, we were all, I think, between 4.1 and 4.3%, with the exception of Lebanon, and they're always an outlier.
My question is, if we are not doing the preliminary budget in January, when will we see the first version of the budget? In March?
We can be flexible in that. We're hoping to do a forecast once we have high school numbers anyway, so it's kind of like an ongoing thing at this point with the construction and rolling new costs into it. But certainly, if you guys wanted to see one in March, I can pull that together and at least give you, an overview of the budget. Yes, because I will absolutely be working on it by that point in time.
And we can do that at either way, to be honest. The one that is meaningless that you have to do if you don't stay with it, if you don't vote to stay with it, you have to do one in January. Is it right? Am I right? January or is it February?
No, it's by January. I always put it in January just because of the snow. It's due in February, so if there's snowstorm in February.
To be honest, we don't even need to go over it at that point. So it's just a regurgitation of this year's budget, basically.
Right.
And it's kind of meaningless. So the real question is whether or not there's a desire to go over 4.3, then you would not adopt that. And if there's a desire to stay 4.3 or lower, then there's no harm in that. We can prepare a preliminary budget by March.
When do we get those state numbers or how much money we get from the state?
July.
Oh, yeah. Well, at that point, I thought we.
I know what you're talking about. It's the governor gives us a speech of what he's expecting to give to us.
Okay.
In February, typically at some point. And I do use those numbers and I adjust my budget afterwards with the governor, but those numbers aren't finalized by any means, like Gary said, until July. And I'm still standing here kind of recovering from him telling you that my numbers are meaningless in January. So he's partially true. So I will say that.
I do remember that those January numbers, we know that they're going to change.
Oh, they changed drastically, 100%. It is just, like he said, regurgitated from the prior year's budget with a few tweaks to it, but yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I had a question, Ann. So with the cafeteria workers, I understand moving them from 10 to 12 hours to be more competitive. But why is that? Why is that if it's an outsourced position. Why isn't that the job of, like, why wouldn't that be the people that don't, we don't employ them, do we? As an-
We don't employ them, but our cafeteria is ran as, if you'll recall over the years, we've always done the cafeteria made money this year, the cafeteria lost money this year. So it does come back and affect our bottom line for the cafeteria's final numbers at the end of the year when we see this. So Mets passes on to us the cost of them. And when we hired Mets, when we outsourced with them, we told them what the starting wage had to be. And they guarantee us a number every year of either a profit or a loss or break even. So this number goes into effect that. So that's why we're going to vote on it, because we're allowing them to change the numbers. And we're basically saying, so now we understand that you're not going to be as profitable this year.
I do have a question about those rates. When I looked at it, it looked like the people that have been here a while that were making, I think it was over $12 maybe, they did not see an increase in their hourly wage.
I'll go back and double check that, but everyone was supposed to have a slight increase. Some people making $12 an hour, maybe they were just hired. And I'm not sure, or if they were just bumped up to that. I'll have to go back and talk to Rob if he didn't do that for somebody and look.
Okay, I mean, I could be mistaken, but when I looked at it, it looked like only under, I think it was $12 was getting a bump, but all others did not. And that just seems like we're almost penalizing, or not penalizing, but incentivizing other people to go elsewhere. Or our experienced folks to go elsewhere. So, yeah, maybe we do want to, if that was certainly not your intent, then I think we want to look at check on that.
Yeah, I'll double check on that because that was my intent and I thought when I looked at it, I had seen that.
Okay, thank you.
Question about the house. So Dr. Messner, are you saying that next week we'll vote on whether we want to rent or dispose of the property? Leanne, will you be meeting with the property manager before then?
I'm going to put a call and that's on the one that I will be moving forward and just talking to them and gathering information. I'm not sure how quick the turnaround will be, if it'll be here by next week, but.
Yeah, we could postpone that.
Yeah, my concern is that what we've heard is that the benefit of hanging onto the property is that the new owner might dispose of it to make a parking lot. And I would not want to invest a whole lot of capital in renovating it so that we can rent it unless it makes economic sense.
The renovations that we were speaking of are basically it needs like a stove in it
Okay,
and just some things like that to make it have a functional kitchen. It wouldn't be renovating it to make it
I see.
bigger rooms or doing anything like that. It would just be making it so that it's rentable with a full kitchen in it.
Okay, that's a good clarification. Okay. Well, if you can get the data, but if it's just that, then I think that's useful to know.
Right. I was more concerned about getting a rental, a monthly rent, what they thought they could rent it out for.
Right, well.
I don't think the repairs will be significant.
Okay, you think we'll have that figure roughly?
I'm going to try for it. Yes,
Okay.
I'll make a phone call tomorrow and.
Great, thank you.
And if we can, we'll push it back.
Okay.
Thank you. That brings us, so that is item 7.1. Correct? So, and a few others. Were there any other questions regarding budget and finance of item 7? And then we move to buildings and grounds, but there are no items there. So then we go to extracurricular.
Yeah, we have a freshman class trip for the class that didn't get to go on their freshman class trip to DC. Also approval of appointed coaches. And then, which is the attachment is listed there, and then also mentioned Ben Baird for the varsity boys volleyball coach.
Any questions? All right, then we move to curriculum.
A couple of final adoption policies there. This would be the second week or second month for those at letter A. And then some tentative adoption under letter B with 2 policies that are listed there. I want to thank Director Nam for volunteering to help us in the future with policy. Nice to have another set of eyes on this, and so he'll be either joining us or getting them asynchronously as we go through them. There is one policy to retire. If you read that, you can see that that was put into the main policy prior to that. We have a request from another 11th grader to graduate this June. She'll have completed all her requirements and is headed to East Stroudsburg. And then 2022-23 career planner, which Mr. Reese is going to talk about to us briefly after this meeting is over as well.
Any questions on that? All right, then we move to human relations.
Not the planner itself, it's just the process. Okay, under 11.1, we have letter A, we have professional substitutes listed for you. Also some classified substitutes. We have 2 leave requests listed there for you. We have a tenure listed there under letter B. This is the professional substitute daily rate that I talked about. As I mentioned, we're at 110 along with Handel and Palmyra. Everyone, 3 of us are all raising to 120. Everyone else is either already at that mark or above. Also, the school operation services. Now, that's what we talked about with the custodians. We found out afterwards we have 6 PCA spots open in the district. And we found out that they actually also have PCAs that we can get some substitutes potentially, although I'm hearing that they're having trouble as well, but at least gives us an option for substitutes, and then a resignation by one of our learning sport teachers.
This may be a dumb question, but while we're using their services, we're still advertising those positions.
Yes, positions are still out.
Any other questions?
Regarding substitutes, how hard is it right now?
I don't know that we ever have a day that we're fully covered. We've been fortunate that teachers haven't taken tons of days off, but Fridays are almost impossible. But even usually in October, a Tuesday is not a problem. There's never a day when we're not covering the summer.
Is the demand for substitutes higher? And maybe last year's not a good comparison, but this year than it has been in years past. Substitutes more.
I don't know. I don't, it doesn't feel that way to me. I don't see numbers that are terribly out of whack. It's just the pool is, what's that? Oh, what do you know about that, Lauren? Do we have more substitutes taking off? Sorry.
Yeah, do we have a higher demand for substitutes this school year than we have in years past?
I'm not sure honestly about years past, because this is my first year. I can tell you though that our daily fill rate, I just looked at those numbers this week, it's about 55 to 70% any day. That's not how much we're staffed, but that's our fill rate for filling positions when teachers take off. So especially like for an instructional support person or a personal care aide, those are some.
Thank you. For an instructional assistant or for a personal care aide, those are positions that we really have a difficult time filling. So we're hoping that the SOS people can kind of supplement what we're already doing. We're still posting, and we also advertised in the merchandiser this past week as well, hoping to drum up some more business that way.
That sounds like the same rate we were at, I believe, when we negotiated the teacher's contract, and we raised the substitute rate at the same time as the teacher's contract because of that very reason. So I wouldn't say they're more in demand. I mean, maybe they are, but I think the fill rate is consistent with where we've been in the past.
I know some districts offer some credits. We don't do anything like that.
We don't, and I have 3 incentives that I've been tossing around sitting on my desk that I might bring forward for next week if I have it ironed out. I mean, I'm hearing all kinds of crazy incentives, like, I think I even heard one where they pay a portion of people's cell phone bill, like it's a gift card or something. I mean, people really start to get creative. But I think we would talk about, if you go X amount of days or something in a row or something like that, yeah.
There's some informational items that you want to just mention anything?
Just real quick, just one instructional assistant changing to the library assistant. And then, as Leanne mentioned, we have the budget calendar. And then there's a flyer there for Disney breakfast, which is sponsored by the FCS Club. And that's a fundraiser for their trip to Disney. I think that's it.
Is there any new business for discussion this evening? I did want to announce that following this meeting, we will have an executive session to discuss a confidential settlement agreement. This will be followed by an informational board workshop to be informed, I believe, about curriculum development and assessment. Is that correct? And that is strictly an informational workshop.
Before I forget, just like about the deal information, but since I won't be here and I probably will forget next week, when we did our workshopping, we discussed board members not being as aware of the budget or feeling kind of like we were just being, left with the budget and so many other questions. And we had discussed picking topics or areas to focus on. I would recommend moving forward, because I won't be there for that. If we're not going to preliminary in January, that maybe as a board, you guys discuss areas, whether you break those up into committees, educationally, staffing, athletics, kind of how we break down our committee meetings. And then that way there's more information and it doesn't fall on her and at a board meeting to get those questions across. I think that might help having someone directly contact us.
Thank you for that recommendation, Director Sakala. Any other new business? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? May I have a second? Is there any discussion? This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded in the affirmative unless you say nay or I abstain. The motion has passed. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.
I would